Welcome to the Fraudulationship to Freedom podcast. I found myself in a fraudulationship, a relationship I thought was based on love and trust, but was really based on lies and manipulation. I didn't intend to marry a sociopath, but I did. When I found out my husband was a con man masquerading as a veteran and Navy SEAL, I was stunned and heartbroken. How could someone who professed his love for me every day lie to my face for years and years? Hi, I'm Meg South, and this podcast is for women survivors of narcissistic or sociopathic abuse who may feel gutted, overwhelmed, angry, confused, alone, frozen, or all of the above, depending on the day. Our wings were clipped by the narcissist or sociopath, but it's not a permanent state of being. On this podcast, we'll talk about practical ways to break the trauma bond, clear up cognitive dissonance, and create the life we all deserve. In addition, we'll work on sharpening our spidey senses so we can recognize these predatory personality types from a mile away and avoid being their next target. I hope you listen each week to discussions with fierce women survivors, activists, and thought leaders, sharing real-world holistic strategies for healing and building our emotional self-defense muscles. This is Meg South for the Fraudulationship to Freedom podcast, remembering we all have wings to fly. So how to be emotionally free by breaking the narcissist trauma bond. About 3 months after I found out that my husband was a military phony, it finally sunk in that I could do what I want. When I want, how I want, for real. I can do what makes me happy without walking on eggshells, without second-guessing myself, and without worrying about pacifying his fragile ego. And that, my friends, is a totally amazing feeling. So how did I get to this point? I will tell you that it did not happen overnight, and it definitely wasn't a straight line. The first thing I had to do was break the trauma bond and the spell that I was under. When I look back at our relationship, I was so confused. It was just, I don't even have the words to describe how confused that I was. It just, a lot of cognitive dissonance, really confused. It was so hard to accept that the fraud that he'd turn out to be was the real him, on the one hand, and that person who had left me love notes on the bathroom mirror, or stopped the project that we were working on in the middle of the garage to dance with me when a song came on, that this romantic person was a fake. That was cognitive dissonance extraordinaire. It just was unreal. Now, looking back in retrospect, I remember that he used to tell me occasionally that he, quote, used to be romantic, or that he, quote, used to feel things, but he didn't really feel anything anymore. And he attributed this to the fallout from his first marriage. I wonder about this now. I don't think it was really had anything to do with his first marriage. I think he was accurately reporting to me that he didn't feel anything, but I think that he never really felt anything. I think that he genuinely wanted to be that romantic guy, and I really think that he tried to be that with me. When things were in an upswing, he treated me very well and was very complimentary and was not at all ugly. Undergirding our entire relationship, though, I found out that he'd been lying to me about this military service, which is huge. That did not happen. And he had some nasty other kinds of behaviors, gaslighting, emotional abuse, some throwing things at me, excuses for that, externalizing, blaming, etc., etc. But I really think that down deep that he wanted to be romantic and he wanted to be a good person, but he didn't feel anything. And that's a brain thing, and it's very sad when you think about it. However, as sad as it was, I wasn't going to be a martyr, and nor should you be a martyr. But getting back to breaking the trauma bond, that bond started to break before I actually found out that he was a fraud. Like I said just a minute ago, all of the behaviors and things that he was doing sporadically was getting to be too much. So what I did was I made a DBT style pros and cons list, and I read it a lot. So DBT stands for dialectical behavioral therapy, and I learned this when I was working at a community mental health center. So the DBT style pros and cons list is different than a typical pros and cons list. On your standard pros and cons list, there's only one column of pros and one column of cons. In the DBT style list of pros and cons, you do pros and cons for, in my case, reasons to stay in the relationship, and pros and cons for reasons to leave the relationship. So you have a much fuller picture. So if you can picture this grid, and I'll put this graphic in the show notes so that you can see what I'm talking about, or you can just Google DBT pros and cons, and there are tons of worksheets available. But basically, if you just picture a table that has 9 boxes, and the first line in the second column is listed pros, and then the third column is cons, and then down the left hand side in the second box down you have leaving the relationship, and then below that in the next box down you have staying in the relationship. So leaving the relationship, the pros of leaving the relationship: never having to be yelled at again, no more walking on eggshells, no more dealing with lies. Cons of the relationship: I might be lonely, no more romantic dances in the garage, I'd have to live on only one income. And then moving to the staying in the relationship pros of that are someone to go places with, 2 incomes, romantic dances in the garage. And the cons of staying in the relationship: continued yelling, continued walking on eggshells, continued dealing with the lies. So as you can see, the pros and cons of the pros of staying and the cons of leaving are similar or the same as the pros of leaving and the cons of staying. But it helped me to have these all listed out with both options written down. And it helped to reread these in the early days whenever I started to get sad about the situation or feel bad for him, because quickly it gave me a reality check, and the cognitive dissonance lessened, and the trauma bond gradually got less and less. And in conjunction with reading this list, I went very low contact initially after I found out about his fraud and left. And then no contact from the second month after I left. And going no contact, what that did was literally cut off any residual influence that he had over me. And that was essential in breaking the trauma bond. Over time, I pulled out the list less and less. And 3 months after I left, I had that epiphany that I talked about at the beginning of the episode, that I really could do what I want with my time, my energy, and my life. And that, my friend, is a great, great feeling. Another thing that I would recommend, that I've said in earlier episodes, is to get that support from someone. Facebook groups, friends, family, a therapist that's trauma informed. It's really important to get that support. But that is how you can start to break the trauma bond and move forward with your life. I hope you found this helpful. Have a great day. You can find me on Instagram at Fraudulationship, on Facebook under my name Meg South or the Fraudulationship page, Twitter at Fraudulationship, and that is FRAUDULATIONSHP for Twitter. There is no I in the ship part of Fraudulationship. I am also on Pinterest at Fraudulationship, and I write on Medium, also at Fraudulationship, and I'm on Quora answering questions under my name Meg South. So check it out if you can, and have a great day.